Hi guys, I'm going to show you how to use 1-point perspective to recreate this drawing. I think this is like New York City, so we're going to work on building a little city together. In your art kits, I sent you a piece of mixed media paper. That's what we're going to be working on. It should be about 8.5 by 11, the size of a regular piece of paper. So we're not doing this in your sketchbook. I've got my drawing pencil set, an eraser, a pencil sharpener, and then I also have my straight edge. So if you have a ruler for this, that would be really good to use. And the very first thing I'm going to do is halfway down my page, I'm going to draw my horizon line straight across. Try to make it as straight as you possibly can. And right in the dead center, that's where I'm going to put my vanishing point. So I'm using a B pencil, but I do suggest using one of the harder pencils like an H or a 4H or even a 6H so that your lines smudge less, but I'm using a softer pencil so you guys can see what I'm doing on my piece of paper. The first thing I'm going to do is draw the road. So from the vanishing point, I'm going to bring it forward to the edge of my paper. And I don't want it to be too wide. But you will start with this like triangle shape here. From there, I'm going to start building my city. So I want to draw a line for the sidewalk. So I'm going to extend it from the vanishing point and draw it right next to the line that I just drew. And that would be the edge of my sidewalk. And I'm going to do that on both sides. Pretty much everything I do, I'm going to do on both sides for this assignment. And then from your sidewalk line, I'm going to draw the corner of my first building. And it's going to be a completely straight line. You do not want it to be diagonal. So it should cross over your horizon line. And then from there, that top edge where it ended, you're going to bring that back to the vanishing point. And then you can draw the front face of that building, draw a completely flat parallel line from the top and the bottom. So everything I just did, I'm going to mirror on the other side of my page. So I'm going to pick the corner here and draw that line up. Bring it back to the vanishing point, and then draw my flat edges. And we should have something like that. Then I'm going to start building the edges of my buildings. So this first building, I'm going to figure out where it ends, kind of like what we did with the shape assignment. I'm going to make it a little bit thicker, my lines, and darker. So that's my first building. And then next to it, I can draw another parallel straight line up for my second building. And I want it to be shorter than my first building, so I'm going to kind of end it. And then figure out where it goes. So I'm going to bring that line back down to the vanishing point. Make it flat across the top to give it that depth, and then decide where you would like this building to end. As we get closer to the vanishing points, your buildings are going to kind of get smaller and smaller and smaller, and that creates that perception of it like disappearing into the vanishing point. And then I'm going to do that again for the next building. So this one's not going to be as wide. And don't forget to do your parallel lines to make it look like it's behind. And then the last one, I'm just going to freehand as it goes back. So now all of my buildings go back at a very even rate. But you can make some of them taller if you want to, but it should never be taller than your original vantage point line. But you can add buildings like in the back, like we've got that tall building in the back over here, and you're just going to use regular lines, regular up and down lines for that. And I'll show you how to turn that into something later. And that's, you can bring the top edge down to the vanishing point. It's going to be a really extreme angle. Give it an ending line, and then we will shade these in later. So everything you did on that side, you can now copy over to your other side. So I've got kind of like a good building design set here. I do notice right now that this building in the back is the tallest. So I'm actually going to shrink that down. Everything in the back should be shorter, not taller. So I'm just going to bring that down quite a bit. This is where your eraser comes in handy. So now we're going to start making these look like buildings. So we're going to add the windows, the doors, some like design details, and this is where your vanishing point comes really in handy. So from your vanishing point, you can decide how tall your door is. So I'm going to draw just like a working line on that first building. And then everything you do, you should bring over to the front as well. And that ended up being a diagonal line. And remember, we want all of our front lines to be parallel and straight. And erase that. So that's going to be kind of like the edge of my building. And I'm going to draw just one more line to make it look more like an edge. And then I can figure out where to put my doors from there. So I'm going to draw a line back to the vanishing point. I'm going to make this a double door. So I kind of want this to look like one of those sliding glass doors that you enter a building through. So it's like a little bit more commercial. And as I draw these, I'm going to start adding some details so I can like really see what I'm doing. So I'm going to start shading in like my door frames and my windows and things like that. It will help you keep everything straight. And then, like, to make it look like you can actually enter in the building, I'm going to add in that line right there and add some shading to give it that three-dimensional effect. So now you can kind of see it looks like you could really walk into that building. From there, I'm going to start adding some windows. So I'm going to define the edge and the other edge and the top. And then I'm going to draw the rows of windows. So there's the first one that goes back to the vanishing point. Just kind of drawing myself a guide. So all of these lines go back to the vanishing point, and then I can start drawing the vertical lines. and the sidelines. So that's a good start to my windows, and I'm going to add some shading. Really lightly. And that's a good start. So from here, you're just going to keep bringing everything back to your vanishing point that's coming to the side, and anything that's in the front, you can use parallel and straight lines. But you can kind of add your windows and your doors to everything here. And as you work towards the back, everything is going to get a little bit smaller. And we're going to kind of create this idea of forced perspective. So you're going to use all the same principles and make everything come back to your vanishing point.